Hooray Nafano and welcome. My name's Howard and this is Gardening by the Kaipara. Welcome to vlog 1. Where we are is North Island, New Zealand, and this is the Kaipara harbour. We've been in this house for 6 months now. Before that it was a complete building site. My wife and I were looking at photos the other day of the work that we've done so far, and we thought it was a real shame that we hadn't really kept more of a track of it. So we thought we'd vlog it so that we could watch all of the changes going on. This first vlog is a plot tour of the veggie garden and the orchard. It's high summer here at the moment, mid-January. Hope you enjoy watching. If nothing else, for the beautiful, beautiful country that we live in here. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy the vlog. Starting at the top with compost heaps, 2 at the moment. We're hoping to get a 3rd one in due course. The pallets ready for them, and then temporary fencing, mainly to offset the wind that we get here. Today's a particularly peaceful day, but usually pretty windy up here. And this is kind of the nursery side of things, with some things we brought from our old house. A couple of rhubarb, some camellia seedlings. But behind we have potatoes. These first 6 or 7 are second earlies, and the growth on them is pretty much standard for what I've managed to get over the last couple of years, which is pretty pants really. However, these, which are main crop, don't ask me which particular variety, although I think there might be a red one, have been absolutely amazing. First time I've ever got them to flower. They are so big. Really excited to see how they become. Spring, I think we've got 9 heads that successfully took, and then zinnias. And I have to say, these zinnias have been a revelation to me. Never grown them before, and I'm completely in love with them. They are just amazing. Really actually like them in this bed with the asparagus. I think they look amazing. As you can see, they're bringing the bees in. We actually had lots of bumblebees this year. Up on the hill above we've got the lovely Barry who keeps bees, and so we have a lot of honeybees around as well. Moving on to the next bed, we've got French beans, strawberries. The hope was to make this all a strawberry bed, but actually trying to get new strawberries this year was particularly difficult. My understanding is that they got wiped out in the storms of last year, which was pretty much exactly a year to the day, I think, which decimated most of New Zealand. Particularly where they were growing the strawberries. Although around here it was bad, they grow kumara here, and that was pretty much entirely wiped out as well. And moving on to this bed, this is the first lot of strawberries along with some volunteer peas. I tried growing peas here in the spring, pretty unsuccessfully, as is my usual. But then 4 or 5 of them decided to grow after I planted in my tomatoes, and did so well that I left them in there. We've actually had a couple of crops out of them, which were absolutely fantastic. So rather than giving up on them, which was halfway in my mind, I'm absolutely committed to trying to grow them again. We have varieties of tomatoes, doing pretty well. These two here are heritage that I've just saved year on year, some kind of black tomato, and then a selection of some that I know and some that I don't know. I actually labelled all of them, but most of them have washed away in the rain. But what I can tell you is I grew Roma and black Krim and a heritage mix, which really could be anything, and one called Sweetie, which is a cherry tomato. But basil, pretty unsuccessful growing of the basil this year. Managed to get a few to take, but not as many as I'd hoped. But we're getting a good crop in. I don't worry so much about blight here. It's just because we have so much wind coming off the sea that I don't think there's much opportunity for blight to spread over here. As you can see, getting some pretty good crops coming in now. Really excited to see these coming in. Got 3 beds of tomatoes, mainly because we love tomatoes and we use them a lot. One of the goals this year is to see if I can get them growing all the way through the year once we get the polytunnel in. So moving on to the last of the original 6 beds that I put in, we have beetroot, multi-sown, had a few out of there already, and then onions. These are Pukekohe long keeper, New Zealand specific. First time I've ever grown onions, and everybody says you wait for them to start to fall flop over before you pick them. They've been in for absolutely ever. I actually want to put other things in the bed, but I'm just trying to be patient. I've also got some shallots, which I just bought from the supermarket because seed shallots over here are so expensive. I can't get my head around how they can charge $10 for 4. It seems absolutely insane, and we don't seem to be able to get the bags of 50 that I often see on YouTube videos in UK. So my plan is to keep those, plant them next year and see if I can start to develop a bit of a store of them. Moving on to the first of the big beds, spring onions down the front, spring onions and lettuce, both of which are supposed to be extremely easy to grow, both of which I absolutely struggle with. So I'm really pleased that we've got those. There's a lupin in the corner and some echinacea on the sides. There's supposed to be sweet corn in this patch, don't think it's going to take, in which case you can put that over to something else. Some very thickly sown beetroot, which I need to thin out, and some carrot, 2 rows of carrots. Now this bed's actually too shallow for the carrots really, no dig, so the ground underneath will be pretty hard after 3 or 4 inches, so they're going to fork or worse. However, I thought it was worth giving them a try. We don't have many pests around here, but as you can see we do have diggers, various birds, and of course our lovely cat who likes to dig. So I think a good quarter of that first row is gone, and this is empty at the moment, and I'm hoping to put in some more French beans, some parsley, some more spring onions into there. So this bed is one of the newer beds that we got, slightly bigger size. So these are 1.2 meters by 2.4, whereas the others are 2x1. And the interesting thing here is the problem with the soil that I seem to have significantly and frequently. If you can see that there's a courgette here and another one next to it, they were actually planted at exactly the same time as those ones, but just couldn't get going. I think it's a problem with nitrogen, and also the fact that we don't have much money, so the beds were made with cheapest compost and material, and which is why I'm now stocking up on the horse manure from our lovely neighbour to try and improve the soil come the autumn. Cucumbers, which are going unbelievably well, never grown them before. I tried to grow a patio one last year, which was a complete failure. This year, these are normal ones, and they are just doing really well. Again, took quite a time to get going, but now that they're off and running, I'm wondering what we're going to do with all those cucumbers. An aubergine, which again took quite some time to work out what it was doing when it was planted in here, but we're starting to take off. A couple of peppers, exactly the same thing again. For maybe a month they just didn't do anything, and I'd lost hope, but now suddenly they've taken off. This bed was the prize bed. It was just going so quickly and so well. Looking a bit faded now, and I think again maybe it's running through to the nitrogen, although it's very windy here and no beans don't like the wind very much, but you can see it's pretty yellow at the moment. Courgettes, had quite a few courgettes off these already, really like them. Have a little bit of blossom end rot on some, which I'm not quite sure what that's about. But we've got still some great ones coming through. Look at that beauty. And again, the zinnias. I think I'm particularly fond of this particularly vibrant pinky purple, and against the marigolds, man, so good. So good. This bed is dahlias and sunflowers. The dahlias are all rescued or retrieved from our house before we moved up here. There were so many that all just got plonked into a big bag and brought up. And at the moment it's looking like they're all coming out white. Now I like the white ones, but I was hoping for a bit more in the way of colour. So if they're all white, then might need to take some out and bring in some new colours. And this is the last bed. This is the big bed. Mostly for pumpkins and melons. Melons are one of my all-time favourite fruits, with some dahlias down the front. What I do know is this particular dahlia is cafe au lait, which was a new one this year. I saw it on YouTube in a couple of people's gardens and just loved it, and so was keen to get one of those. And this year there were absolutely loads of them in the shops, whereas I hadn't seen them for ever really over here, so that was really exciting to get that. Otherwise we'll wait to see whether these are all going to be white or whether we're going to have some different colours. The pumpkins are doing really well. Seem to have so many of them already, just firming up. The watermelons, not so sure. Two varieties of watermelon here, 2 moon and stars and 1 golden gold. And although we get some female fruit showing, they don't seem to be getting fertilised, although that one is looking a little bit more promising. I find that I spend quite a lot of time just like this, bending down, inspecting. I spot one and then I kind of up in it a couple of days and I can't find them. I'm thinking I might trim back some of the pumpkins because we don't eat a lot of pumpkin, and I'm worried that they might smother the melons completely. And if I had the choice between the two, I would have the melons. Hang on a second. What is this? Look at that. Look at that. Oh wow. Oh wow. Oh, I'm so happy. That is amazing. Amazing. Okay, so there we have it. First plot tour. We are so now I'll take you down to, sounds a bit grand to call it an orchard, but certainly the fruit trees that we hope to make into an orchard at some point. Okay, so now we're coming down to what will be the orchard. What I mean by that is I hope to get more trees in, but what we wanted to do was put them in some first to see how they do. One of the challenges of living here on the coast is that it's extremely windy, and quite a lot of things that I tried to grow last year were just destroyed by the wind. Now admittedly last year's weather was the worst in living memory, quite literally, so couldn't always count on that being how it would be here, so we thought we'd put in 8 and see how they fared this year. Fruit trees have been particularly expensive this year because I think quite a lot got damaged in the storms last year, so we couldn't really afford to plant out loads and then have them all die. So we've got these 8 and some fruit bushes, with the idea being that we'll see how we get on, and if we do well with these then we'll put in some more next year. So I'll take you around first of all. These fruit fruit bushes. These fruit bushes, we have 2 feijoas here. For those who are not familiar with feijoas, an interesting taste, very popular here in New Zealand. And then 3 lemons. I think these are probably too close together in reality, but for the time being I think they'll be fine. I'll probably take out the middle lemon, this feijoa, and put them in a different bed in due course. You'll notice the bed's quite weedy. I put a whole load of pea straw down to keep the weeds down, with some weed matting underneath. But actually the peas have started growing, which I think is quite funny. So this is a apricot. It's 2 different varieties that are grafted onto the one rootstock. We'll just see what this is. Sundrop and Trivat. And coming up next to it is my Louisa plum. Our neighbour had this in our old house and it gave the most amazing plums, and so I was keen to get that variety when we came in here. Very excited about this. We've taken all of the fruit that was on the trees off in the hope that they'll focus on putting down roots. This is a nectarine. This is Snow Queen. And then a peach, which is Red Haven. All of the trees look like they've grown about a foot since we bought them. We put them in around the 11th of November and they all seem to be doing well so far, which is encouraging for next year. This is a fig. Can't remember from the top of my head which variety that one is, but again that's doing really well. It was quite tiny when we bought it. This is the first of our apple trees. This is one that I'm not actually familiar with as a tree. It's called Adore. It's supposed to be resistant to disease. When we put it in, I looked at a photo the other day and it was barely above the 2 posts, so it's done really well in the first 3 months. Really bushing out nicely. And this is the other apple, which is Rayburn, classic apple. We had this in the last house. Really, really nice apple. First breath of the wind. First breath of the wind. And the last plum. Which is a Billington. There we have it. What will be the orchard. Now the trees are 4 metres apart, which hopefully gives them enough space. One of the things I'm hoping to do is form a bit of a canopy in this space, and maybe that we'll keep chickens down here who will have a bit of shade from them in time. Okay, whānau, we're done there. Hope you enjoyed the plot tour and this first vlog. As usual with these things, please like and subscribe. Apparently that makes a difference to things. In the meantime, hare rā, please take care, and I'll see you next time. See ya.